first of all, thanks a lot for taking the time to talk to us. Obviously, you have a lot of interviews to go through in a 32-day tour. So you're kicking it off tonight in Aberdeen, are you?
Yeah. So
how excited are you to be finally getting started again?
Well, it's good. We did quite a lengthy run in the winter there. We did 40. This one's about 31, I think. So it's it's good to get back out there and doing lots of places we haven't been in a long time. Some we've never been before. So it's it's exciting and it's different. It keeps us interested too.
I mean, it's always straight as a band too. There's some bands who will never ever even hear of Aberdeen, rather than come here more than once. So, how important is it to you guys to try and reach as much places as possible, particularly the ones that aren't considered, the main tour circuit?
Yeah, I mean, we've been coming to Aberdeen ever since our first ever UK tour. Actually, we did. I think it was called the New School of Rock, and we played a venue which I believe is no longer here. But ever since then, we've been to the tunnels a few times. This is our second time in the Lemon Tree, and we get a lot of love up here generally. Yeah. In Scotland, I mean, Glasgow, Aberdeen, Dundee, Edinburgh, all cities we've been to on a number of occasions. But as a general kind of principle, we do like to get to reach a bit further than the major cities. The Londons and the Manchesters of this world, because as much fun as they are, we do realise that there's pretty hardcore rock fans all over the UK and Ireland that deserve to be entertained as much as anybody else, so yeah, I mean, I think we're a very kind of grassroots based band at the best of times, and a tour like this is a lot of what we're about.
Yeah, I mean, you've played massive shows in the past. I mean, obviously you guys toured with AC/DC at one point. How is it? You prefer these more intimate shows than the big bombastic kind of massive arena shows? What ones would you say you prefer?
I think every gig has its merits, Yeah. Sound like a politician, but. Obviously the big gigs with AC/DC were just mind-blowing experiences. Getting to play in front of, tens of thousands of people every night. Having said that, we did that whole tour. We did make a point of on days off the AC/DC tour, we go and play a club gig. So we always kept intact that side of who we are. Because we were obviously very aware that those big crowds were there to see AC/DC, and it's up to every young band to build up their own kind of hardcore following.
To kind of give you a shot in the arm, going back to the smaller shows. I mean, you obviously still have some crowds turn up, some size of crowds turn up to your own shows, but
but they were refreshing as well, and that it was good to get back into a little club and to be able to see the whites of the audience's eyes and to really connect with your own audience in your terms. I mean, there's so much to be said for that as well.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have been together for seven odd years now, maybe a bit longer.
A bit long. We're hitting 14 coming up, is it?
Yeah, double my estimate. It's not often you get bands who have been together this long who have the same group of guys in the band. I mean, when you go on tour, do you still have your pet hates with each other, or do you know how to deal with each other a bit more?
You still have pet hates, yeah, of course. But,
probably more now than ever.
But I think as you get older, if you manage to keep it together, you become more tolerant and more understanding. And it's the old cliche of a family. It's kind of you spend more time with these guys than you do your own family, really. So you learn, what they like, what they don't, how to push the buttons, and when not to do it. But yeah, it's
joys of being in a band, I suppose.
Yeah, it's more good things than bad, but they can be an annoying bunch of fuckers sometimes.
Do you want to say something bad?
Present company accepted.
Thanks, Paul. But being together for almost 14 years kind of speaks for itself with regards to compatibility, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, how much the longer you go on, the older you get, how much does it impact life back home? Is it more difficult to peel yourself away to go on tour, or is it just does it get easier?
I don't know. It just depends, you know. Your own personal life is constantly changing. You know, it's not an age thing. It just depends whatever situation you're in.
Yeah.
There and then, you know, sometimes it's easier to get out on the road.
Yeah. Sometimes
you can't wait to get out on the road. Most times you can't wait to get out on the road, in fact. But you know, it's just something that we've always dealt with. You know, having to kind of be away from home for long periods of time, and it's part of our jobs the same way. You know, somebody in the army has to go away from home for a while. Somebody who works in an oil rig has to leave home for a month or two.
Yeah.
You know, it's similar kind of thing. You know, and yeah, it's just the way it is. We're well used to it.
Yeah. Yeah, you've actually before you released your latest album, New Horizon, you had a bit of a clear out, so to speak, you know, label and management changes. I mean, how much did that have an impact on the recording process of your new album?
I think once we started making those changes, we wanted to make something new quite quickly. So it certainly fueled the early creative process of it, and we were quite aware of doing things a little differently, or everything was under the microscope, and it was good to work with Toby Jepson, in that he understood that too, and we wanted to go back to sort of the early roots of what the band, of what people reacted to, which is, I guess, the live sort of. We were always a great live band, and it captured that to a certain extent on record, but maybe not in his opinion, I guess ours too, not as good as it could have been. So he was very helpful in going after that. And yeah, I guess we kind of worked with him on writing some songs too, which was before was a definite no-no. It was 4 of us, and no one else was allowed into that. So I guess that was a new thing for us.
So what changed with you guys? You know, if it was a lot of bands like the full kind of creative control of their work, you know, what changed with you guys that led you to decide to have him involved in some of the songs?
Just kind of a longing to shake things up on a creative level as well as behind the scenes, you know, and in the background, you know, it's something we always strive to do with every record, is to challenge ourselves to take it to the next level. And 4 records in, you know, it's easy to get complacent, and one option at our disposal was working with somebody else just to see. Like, there were no set rules. You know, if it worked, then great. If it didn't work, then that's fine too. You know, we're all confident songwriters, and you know, we know how to write a song basically. So if it didn't work, then we always had that to fall back on. And you know, thankfully, it was a very positive experience. And you know, there's 3 or 4 songs in the record there that are testimony to that whole process, I think.
I mean, you've also had that kind of working with new producers with every album. Is that right? I mean, what do you look for in a producer when you come to making the decision, and what kind of qualities are you looking for?
I think, I guess the first thing, well, you'll tend to meet producers, you know, you'll send them demos and stuff, and it'll be email kind of, or phone calls. Well, email first, and then you'll talk to them on the phone, and then eventually you'll meet them in person. So it's, when you don't meet someone, they can say anything. You can get an email from anyone that tells you all the things you want to hear.
Gives you the world by email. And
It's not until you meet them. So I think the first thing we're looking for is probably the personality, and you know, how we all get on. Do we feel comfortable around them? Could we see ourselves trusting them? Things like that. I think every producer will promise. They're chasing a certain paycheck, you know. It's the same as everyone, but so they will say certain things to get the job or get their foot in the door. So you tend to forget about that stuff when you meet them. You know, you can see what.
See if you just hit it off rather than business speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned before, you've gone back to the kind of the raw sound, which I think definitely comes through in the new album. I mean, was that an active decision you guys made to kind of take things back to kind of live level on record?
Yeah, well, I think that's, again with Toby, I think he listened to our records, and Everyday Demons was maybe his favourite, certainly in terms of production and the sonic of it. And that was kind of done in a similar way of recording live. So we went with that as a blueprint, and went even further in that it was, you know, guitar solos were taken live in the room as well. And it was very, there's some guitar overdubs there, just, you know, rhythm guitar here and there, and there's some backing vocals, but it's like a live band in the room.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, loads and loads and loads of layered tracks. It's very honest. I think that brought something, I don't know, more aggression out in the playing. You're more on edge, and maybe that all comes across, makes it sound a bit more real, a bit more live.
Yeah, and you used to be a vocalist back in the 90s as well. I mean, how did that help you in the recording process and the writing process as well?
Yeah, it was great. It's the first time I've really worked with a guy who is first and foremost a singer. In the same way Frenchie in the last record was a guitar player, you know, and Paul enjoyed that whole experience, because obviously they can get inside each other's heads, and get the best out of Paul, you know. So I was looking forward to it, and it was great because like after we tracked all the songs in the studio, we moved out of the main studio and up to Scarborough into Toby's little kind of vocal booth world, and just kind of thrashed through all the 13 or 14 tracks that we were doing, and you know, in a week got a lot of good work done, and it was just easy. It was just felt natural, and I think as a result I was really able to express myself as a vocalist in the way I wanted to, because, you know, Toby just brought that kind of nice, relaxed vibe to it. Obviously knowing what it takes to bring the best out of a singer, you know. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah,
and you just mentioned as well that he took you out to his wee place in Scarborough. I mean, how was it recording in such an isolated area, you know, compared to the big studios? It
was weird actually, because I was the only one up there, you know. The rest of the guys went home, so I was staying in this kind of hotel overlooking the ocean, and it was kind of like, you know, it was a bit, you know, could have done with a lick of paint, and you know, still very, it was just heading into the depths of winter, so it was kind of very, you know, windy and rainy, and it did feel quite isolated, you know. But it just meant then I looked forward to going into the studio every day, and you know, having people to talk to and being warm, and you know, Toby's little studio is out the back of the house, so, you know, like, I was very much kind of welcomed into the family for that week, you know. It was really nice, like, and definitely got a large dose of Yorkshire hospitality while I was there, so it was great.
Yeah, and the album art for your new album, I find quite interesting. It was designed by the late Storm Torkson's. He's obviously one of the most, for people who don't know, the iconic, you know, designers in terms of album art. I mean, worked with Pink Floyd, you know, Led Zeppelin. I mean, how did it come about, you working with him?
It was just a bit of a punt, really. Whenever our A&R man was in the studio catching up on what we were doing, we sat down and had the conversation about artwork, and all these different artists were getting bandied about, but the name we kept coming back to was Storm Thorgerson, almost as a joke, thinking, obviously Storm Thorgerson's not going to design the cover. And I think that planted a seed in our A&R man's mind, and a couple of weeks later he says, we've got some good news, Storm's going to do the cover, and it was great, you know. And that's began a very thorough process, which you know, was a lot of fun to be part of.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the kind of iconography he's done as well has kind of been pulled through your new video as well. I mean, is that something that you've had in the past, has his input led to a kind of more wholesome visual creative process, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I think Storm created a very, such a strong image and everything that was wrapped up in that image of the birdcage man on the front of the record. It then made it very easy for us to kind of run with it a bit. We've never had that before, where we've had a album artwork that we've been so confident in its power and its ability to reach people that as you say, the video is based on that whole idea of the birdcage man, as is our backdrop and all our artwork on our t-shirts, and we've been able to really kind of brand that image over the course of the campaign since the release of the record, which is kind of what we've always wanted to do, but never really had the tools. So I mean, a lot of that is down to the creativity and genius of Storm Thorgerson, for sure. Yeah.
So after this tour, I mean, what have you guys got planned for this year? I hear you in particular keen to go over to the States and do a few shows over there.
Sure, yeah. That's definitely one of the priorities. The record came out over there, I think a week after it came out over here. So, the only follow up we've really done with regards to that is Paul and myself went out and did a load of press for a week in New York there before the October tour. So we really want to get back over there and play a bunch of gigs. It's been a while since we've toured the States, and every day on Facebook we're getting abuse from our American fan base for ignoring them,
Yeah, because you missed that particularly in your last album, did you? So was there any particular reason to it just not come through, or?
That was just one of those things, really. Kind of, the record label were kind of hemming and hawing about releasing it in the States, and it just didn't happen in the end. Just brush yourself off and get back to it in those situations.
So make up for lost time next time you're over there.
Yeah, so we want to get back to the States. We've got our eyes in Japan again. We've been there a bunch of times, and our records do well down there. And on the home front, I suppose we've got some festivals coming up, and the whole festival calendar's kind of getting fuller and fuller every week.
Are there any you can tell us about, or are they all?
I'm not sure actually what we can tell you about, but just suffice to say that we'll have a busy summer ahead, and in the middle of all that as well, we've already started to kind of get ideas together for album number 5. So that's always kind of in the background. The idea would be to over the course of the summer put something together, so that we've got a bunch of material to get the next record up and running. Yeah.
Okay, well thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you taking to talk to me, and I hope you enjoy the show and the rest of the tour.
Yeah. Cheers, man. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.